My
I think
dog
as
just walked
someone
in the room,
who's
so.
straddled both Christianity and atheism, something both sides need to do more is learn about abductive reasoning, where what you do is you figure out a theory that explains the data in the best way. Well, we don't need to get all into epistemology today. We're trying to do Bible contradictions, but that's probably not something new, but it's
Go
something
ahead.
that really changed my lens whenever I learned about it.
You want to explain, like, just give the...
Oh, yeah. So, like, for example, I was teaching a class one time with a student, and it was a virtual class, kind of like we're doing now. And we were doing it with Google Docs, and I could see that they were in the review. This is just an example to show how abductive reasoning works. And so I could see they were in the review, and I was like, "Oh, excuse me, looks like you still have the review open." And then they go, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that," and they closed out of it. So at that point, abductively, I have to make an inference to the best explanation. Was the student cheating, or were they telling the truth? And at that point, the data could go either way, because to that point, they seem to be a really, really honest person, not a person who would cheat or anything like that. But then I started looking at the answers on the test, and they were word for word the same as the review. And so at that point, the probability shifted vastly in favor of cheating from being more neutral. But I still wasn't absolutely certain. You're never absolutely certain with abductive logic. It's an inference to the best explanation. But I could be pretty certain they were cheating. And so I started cross-examining them about this. And they were just like, "Oh, it's because I memorized the answers," right? Which isn't as likely of an explanation as just simply saying they were cheating.
Okay.
But then I looked into like the edit history and saw where the answers were being pasted in. And so that really shifted it. And so then,
hey,
and
but
then
you can't be certain.
Yeah, and then they eventually confessed that they cheated. But even at that point, there could have been a super ad hoc, complex explanation of there was someone off screen with a gun telling them to act like they had cheated, with ready copy and pasted in. I want you to type up the answers and then copy and paste them into the thing without looking at the review, but having the review open. So there'd be some way to explain the data without it just being that they cheated. But the simplest explanation is just that they cheated. Right. And so I can't be, 100% certain that they cheated, but I can be 99.9999999% certain that they cheated. And so everything that we're studying, like with history or the resurrection, any of these sorts of claims of things that happened in the past, we're using abductive reasoning. Arguments for God are all abductive reasoning. You argue for God that he's the best. You conclude God because it's an inference to the best explanation for the data set that we have.
I need to learn more about that because I find it so frustrating when people say, "But you can't know."
Right. So that's the issue that a lot of times when you're arguing with someone, like I'll be arguing with someone about the existence of God, and they're like, "Well, we know that God doesn't exist because only measurable and repeatable things can be said to exist." It's like, okay, well, we need to backtrack and stop arguing about whether God exists and instead figure out whether logical positivism, which is what only measurable and repeatable things is true, we need to figure out if that's true. Then we can go on to figure out, and you have to go back and kind of go deeper and deeper into your metaphysics to figure out where it is that you actually disagree that's leading you to disagree up here on God or the resurrection or miracles or whatever it is. You have to go deeper and deeper and figure out, okay, where do we actually separate from each other?